At the age of just 21, Glynn Simmons agreed to take part in a police lineup. He didn't even know he had the right to refuse. It was the first in a shocking chain of events that saw him jailed for the next 48 years for a murder he didn't commit.
Glynn Simmons was convicted of shooting two Edmond women during a liquor store robbery in 1974.
And a nearly 50-year fight for justice is over.
The longest wrongful sentence ever in the US.
Nobody in American history has spent longer behind bars only to be completely exonerated.
It's like being born again, you know?
You were sentenced to death in the electric chair.
Sometimes insanity sits in, became a refuge at times, you know? I'm pissed. I'm still pissed, but this piss, you know, it's energy. You know, I'm pissed off enough to make something right.
What was the best and worst thing about the world that you found 50 years later?
I haven't found nothing bad yet. It gets better for me every day.
Now finally he's free, and Glynn Simmons joins Uncensored. Well, Mr. Simmons, first of all, this is one of the most extraordinary miscarriages of justice I think I've ever read about. And I've interviewed many, many people who've been in and out of prison in my career. Nothing quite like yours. And what shines through about your story is that never once did you waver and take the easy option of saying, all right, I did it, I'm sorry, let me out, which you could have done. You never did that. You just resolutely stood by the fact that you were an innocent man, and eventually, 48 years of incarceration later, you finally got out. And that's an amazing testament to you and your strength of character.
Thank you, Piers. Yeah, being innocent, it never crossed my mind to cop to something I didn't do, you know. It crossed my mind after 48 years, after 45 years, and, you know, I thought about it, but I couldn't even fake it, you know. I know that would have been sort of,
And how did freedom taste? How did it smell when you finally came out of prison? That moment when you inhaled free air again.
Well, it's like being born again, you know? Like I imagine, I don't know how it is coming out of the womb, but it was sort of like, you know, being born again, you know? But I takes it all in stride and walk into it with confidence because I seen it, I visualized, I dreamed about it, I prayed on it, and this is what it, you know, this is the manifestation of it.
I want to take you back, Glynn, to where it all started. You were just 21 years old, you had no criminal record, and you were in Oklahoma, you'd been there a few days, you were arrested on suspicion of robbery, one you hadn't committed. The police had no apparent reason to pick you up that day in 1975. The robbery victim didn't even recognize you. You were told you were free to leave, but just as you were about to be released, the police said they were short of men for a police lineup for something else and asked you to take part. And you didn't know it was within your rights to refuse. And your mother had taught you the importance of respecting officialdom. And so you did what you thought was your duty, and you took part in a lineup. And that decision to do that was to end up costing you your liberty for 5 decades.
Yeah, yes. Yes, I mean, I didn't know nothing else to do. That's how I was raised, you know. And I had never had no experience with the criminal justice system, and nobody in their right mind would think that the officers would, you know, do what they did after the witness has identified the perpetrator, you know, to turn around and, well, I didn't believe that until 20 years later when I was able to obtain documents to show the deception was deliberate, you know.
You took part in a lineup where you were supposedly identified as having been involved in the murder of a 30-year-old liquor store worker, Carolyn Sue Rogers, who'd been shot in the head during a robbery. And along with somebody else, Dan Roberts, you were convicted and sentenced to death, as it turned out, later commuted to life imprisonment. But it's the fact that you're nothing to do with this crime. You've been pulled in to be in a police lineup. You're completely innocent. It's nothing to do with you. You get misidentified, and your life just very quickly spirals into a trial, imprisonment, potential execution. What are you thinking as this is all happening to you?
I'm thinking this is a mistake, and pretty soon it will be resolved. And I had faith, in all my teachings and stuff about, this don't, they'll get it right. And I kept that belief for a long time, for years and years, they'll get it right. Until I discovered that what had happened was what you call a miscarriage of justice or a simple mistake. It was deliberate.
Yeah.
Through and through. It was a deliberate act, that's.
I mean, the most scandalous part of many scandals in this story is that at the preliminary hearing, and this is evidence that wasn't given to the defense, the prosecution brought forward an 18-year-old Belinda Brown as an identification witness. Now, she'd been a customer in the liquor store. She'd been shot in the head too during the robbery. And when interviewed after coming out of hospital, she told the detective sergeant, Anthony Garrett, "My mind is all jumbled up because of the brain injury she suffered." This was never disclosed to your defense. And at the trial, she identified Roberts as the shooter and you as the accomplice. But they knew, the detectives, that she had said her mind was jumbled because of the brain injury she'd had from being shot. And there was a one-page document that showed that Brown identified you and Roberts in the lineup. Those are the two guys identified in the lineup. Identify them again now, she told the court. But it later emerged she had never identified you in the lineup. So at every stage of this woman's evidence, from the initial incident right through to the supposed lineup to the court and everything about this was wrong. And yet your defense would deprive the information, which I would have thought would have exonerated you.
I would like to clear up a few facts about the witness.
Yeah.
And the witness was deceived also. Just like in my wildest imagination and the prosecutor's wildest imagination, we never thought that the officers did what they did. What reason? It had Belinda Brown identified number 6 in the lineup. She never did identify me or Don Roberts in the lineup.
Right.
Belinda Brown got shot in the head, and after she got shot in the head, for 5 weeks, she went through 6 or 7 lineups. And in those 6 or 7 lineups, she never did identify the perpetrator. What she said was, if you read the preliminary hearing transcripts, what she said was, I identified an eye or a nose or a mouth that resembled the perpetrator. She never did identify the perpetrator. However, 5 weeks later, when she got to court, me and my co-defendant sitting at the defense table, the only 2 black guys in the whole courtroom, except for my attorney, and she knew she had got it right. See, that's what I've been trying to tell my attorneys for years. Attorneys are trained by instinct. They are trained to discredit the witness. Their first objective is to discredit the witness. So I had to try to convince these attorneys to give this witness the benefit of the doubt. But if you give the witness the benefit of the doubt, you left nothing but police conspiracy cover-up. And nobody didn't want to go down that road for years and years. They wanted to keep calling it a miscarriage of justice or a mistake, when actually it wasn't. It was deliberate. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me personally. It was about clearing this case, solving this unsolved case that there was under a whole lot of pressure to get resolved for a whole month. If you look at the newspaper clippings of that month of 1975, every day there's an article in the newspaper about how incompetent the police is and they can't solve this case, and they come into a dead end, and they was desperate to solve this case. Now, the guy that Belinda Brown picked out of the lineup, they already had him on the double homicide, him and his brother on the double homicide. But they still got all these unanswered questions and these unsolved, murder cases in Oklahoma City. Here I am, easy. Give it to him and him,
And you faced an all-white jury. Do you think that race played a part in their decision-making?
Absolutely. race plays a part in the whole criminal justice system. I mean, look at it. I mean, we are. Will you turn this on for me?
Yeah.
We are. In Oklahoma, we are like 8% of the state's population, yet we like 40% of the prison population. Yeah, I mean, talking about black folks, you know, people of color. Absolutely, race played an issue. A white lady got killed in Edmond, Oklahoma, a sundown town, what they call in America a sundown town, meaning get out of town before sundown, you know. And one got killed, one got shot. Two black guys. Blacks wasn't even allowed to live in Oklahoma in Edmond in 1975. Of course, race played a part. It played a big, big part all the way through, and still does.
When you were convicted, Glynn, your mother screamed loudly in the courtroom, a piercing scream. Is that because she knew that you were an innocent man?
Yes. Yes, my mother knew better than anybody that I was innocent because I was with her. You know, that night when they said the murder went down, I was with my mom and a few of my friends. Yeah, but this is my mother. You know, they sitting up here talking about kill her son by electrocution. You know, for something he didn't do. You know, of course, you know, yeah, it was a piercing scream, and it changed everything. My outlook on, you know, what was really going down.
You were sentenced to death in the electric chair.
Yeah.
That was later commuted after 2 years, but you were put in solitary confinement, and you were thinking that at any moment you could be executed for a crime you didn't commit. You're an innocent man. You had no criminal record until this moment. What went through your mind, Glynn, when you were in solitary for all that time?
Well, it was the first year on that road. Still kind of believing in the system that it's going to, you know, in a couple of years they'll get this right, you know. I was young. When you're young, you got these outlooks of invincibility. So, you know, them killing me on that road, it didn't generate the fear and the trauma that it did later. You know, you kind of find a way to adjust. You know, you take flight in fantasies, and sometimes insanity sets in, and you know, that's what became a refuge at times. You know.
Yeah, I found that very interesting. You gave an interview about having mental illness episodes, and that in a way, you were pleased you did because it allowed you to escape the reality of what you were going through for the period of time that you had the episode.
Yeah, one of your countrymen, George Michael's, Careless Whispers. He got a lyric in there. He said, "To the hearts and minds, ignorance is kind. There's no comfort in the truth." You know, you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was accurate. You know. Yeah, we take flight sometime, and bouts of insanity do set in. As I sit here and talk to you, you know, after 48 years, 5 months, and 13 days of incarceration, it would be ludicrous to think that I don't have mental health issues. You know, after being incarcerated all those years for a crime I didn't commit, I have mental health issues that haven't been given a name. You know, what saves me is that I recognize it first and confront it before, you know, the so-called therapists would recognize it and confront it. You know.
You were kept in a cell alone 24 hours a day, allowed out just 3 times a week for 15 minutes to shower. I mean, that's an extraordinarily tough condition to be incarcerated, where it's just you, and you're thinking you're going to be executed.
Yeah, you have time to grow up. You mature real fast, you know. I went to that road. I dropped out of school like in 8th grade, so I was a functional illiterate, you know. But out of desperation to survive, to live, you come to. I started reading. I started writing. Taught myself to read and write, which was a salvation for me because for me, reading was like fleeing, you know. You could read a book and flee. And writing, you know, you write your way up out of it, you fight back. So, you know, these mechanisms, fight or flight, that was there, you know, I learned how to use them.
You come from a very religious family who stood by you, but how important was religion, faith in God, to surviving this?
Well, me and God done had many, many battles, you know. Of course, he always wins, you know, but I've been Christian, I've been Muslim, I've been Buddhist, I've been Hebrew Israelite. I've studied and taught many, many different religions in my quest to find peace or salvation or meaning, you know, to get some kind of meaning out of all of this. And in the end, I came to find out it was all one. It wasn't different, no difference in none of them. It was about, you know, peace and salvation, you know. So religious played a good part, you know.
In the early stages...
Always came back, you know.
Yeah, in the early stages, Glynn, you were quite rebellious because you were angry. You knew you were innocent. And you thought, well, why should I have to comply?
Yes.
You were verbally rebellious. You were occasionally violent in your rebellion. And when you were moved to minimum security jail, you escaped. The fence was 2 foot high. You just walked away. You were gone for 3 weeks. I mean, that feeling when you were on the run, did you feel a sense of liberty? Did you feel, well, I'm going to get caught at some stage, I'm going to enjoy it? What was your mindset when you were on the run?
No, I didn't escape just to be free. I escaped with intentions of trying to get this murder case up off of me. That was my intentions of escaping. I always knew you can't run for life, you know? So I gave it 10 years. Like 3 years on that road, 10 years of filing legal, you know, redress and all disappointments. After 10 years, they sent me to minimum security. And yeah, it was like, here your chance, take it or leave it, you know? 3 foot high fence, 10 years of incarceration for something you didn't do. I mean, what would you do? What would anybody do?
Yeah.
It's only simple logic that I would leave, you know?
You were caught after 3 weeks and given more years on your sentence. But after that, in your final, 3 decades, I believe, and correct me if the timeline is wrong, you became calmer and you became more focused on clearing your name. Less rebellious, more towing of the line, but trying to clear your name and indeed help others who were in similar positions.
Yes. Yes, yes. I don't know if I became calmer or more strategic in my efforts to get out, because when you got a sentence like I had, you know, you got very few options, like 4 options, and I never stopped exercising them options. You know, you could make parole, you get your case overturned, you can escape, or you can die. It's 4 options, and I was bound and determined, you know, dying gonna take care of itself, you know, but I was bound and determined to exercise those options until I wasn't able to no more. And yeah, it's a couple of escapes, attempted escape, and many legal appeals and many parole board appearances, you know. No victories after all them years, you know. Never stopped fighting. I was supposed to give up a long time ago, you know. But had the hope and, you know, knocked out of me so many times, you know, when I thought I was going to be free. And it looked at, you know, real promising, and then somebody said no, you know.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
In 1995, the trial prosecutor, Robert Midfelt, wrote to the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board saying that your case, had troubled him for 20 years because the evidence was so thin. And then in 1996, you hired a private investigator who discovered a missing police report that the original witness, Belinda Brown, that we were talking about earlier, had stated that the man she identified as Simmons was 6 foot tall and weighed 200
Yeah,
pounds.
200 pounds.
Whereas very different to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 5'8", 180 pounds now. But at the time, I was 5'8", 150 pounds, you know.
And what was significant
Totally
was
different description.
you didn't need new evidence to prove your innocence. The appalling thing about your case was the evidence was there all the time. And you just had to find someone, somewhere, a lawyer somewhere, who could get that evidence, which was sitting there, and get you out of prison. How did that eventually happen, Glynn?
I came into some money in '95, and if you remember, that was during the time of the OJ trial.
Yeah.
Everybody remember Johnny Cochran. I watched Johnny Cochran give a news reporter interview, and he was telling these reporters about when a crime happened, the first detective or the first police on the scene began to write investigative reports. And if the perpetrator is not apprehended 1 day, 2 days, 3 months, 4 months later, well, every day there's an investigative report being wrote because it's an ongoing investigation. And so I knew then, okay, what I need is a private investigator. I can't remember where I got the guy's reference from. His name was Charles Nobles. And I wrote him a letter and told him about my case, and he came down to McAllister. I was in McAllister in maximum security at the time. And he came down and we sat down and we talked, and I gave him a list of what I was looking for. I was trying to get preliminary hearing transcripts, probable cause affidavits, and, you know, cause for arrest affidavit. I could never get it after following through the course. So I paid him to go get that. And he came back with a treasure trove of all kind of stuff that nobody had never seen, you know, had been stuck in the archives in the courthouse. And when he came back and he brought me all of that stuff, I immediately hired a law firm to file my post-conviction and everything. Everything was barred. They never looked at the merits of it because of procedural defaults. I stayed in prison 27 years long after I discovered all this.
Incredible.
Because no judge, no parole board, nobody would look at the merits of the case because I was barred because of previous, you know, appeals that I had made, and I didn't include all this in previous appeals.
And when was the big breakthrough, Glynn, where you where finally you realised you were going to get exonerated?
In April of last year, April 19th, I had a evidentiary hearing, and I knew, you know, that all I ever needed to do was get back before a judge, but get back in court. You know, and the first time I ever got back in court, I was, you know, they declared me, you know, vacated the sentence. I knew they couldn't proceed. The district attorney didn't have nothing. They didn't have nothing in '75, and they sure didn't have nothing in 2023, you know?
And
yeah.
On September the 12th, 2023, the Oklahoma County District Attorney Vicki Benn announced they were dropping all the charges against you, complete and utter exoneration. What did that moment feel like? Did it feel joyous? Did it feel relief? Did you feel angry? How did you feel in that moment?
They dropped the charge. Well, they dropped the charges in October, vacated my sentence in October. But I wasn't never satisfied with being exonerated. So we filed an amendment, and the judge declared me actually innocent instead of exonerated. There's a difference, you know. And she said I was actually innocent, which I was. I was actually innocent.
And how did you feel, Glynn, when you heard that?
Yeah, it was.
What was your emotion when you heard that?
I was extremely exhilarated. It's like a big weight had been lifted, you know? Like carry a big old load around for a long time. When you put it down, you just feel light. You feel like you want to float, you know? That's what the feeling was like for me that day.
Incredibly, having spent 48 years in prison for a crime you never committed, as you were finally being released, you found out you had stage 4 liver cancer, which is obviously incredibly serious condition. This was like a hammer blow to you. but remarkably, you've made really good progress with it, I understand.
Yes, yes, very good progress. You know, they labeled it from stage 4, from 1 to 4. Well, it's no numbers now. They considering surgery to remove the last pieces before it become too microscopic to see. But listen, let me share this with you, Piers, and your audience. This thing with me is not just about my resilience and tenacity. This thing with me is about manifestation, you know, and the manifestation of my liberation and the manifestation of the restoration of my health. It's all on the same, you know, it's all on the same thing. And people wonder how I made the adjustment and how I came back so easily from what had happened. Well, I'm still not back, but I'm into another kind of, I guess you would call it metaphysical, you know, but my belief carried me through. And I think you done heard it before. The Messiah said, "Why marvel at the things I do when you can do even greater?" And when you consider the things that he was doing, and this the guy said, you know, you can do even greater. So I stopped everything I thought I knew and thought all the beliefs I thought I had to decipher, what is the Messiah talking about? How can we do greater? And he was walking the water and making the blinds, you know? And so I kind of figured out, and he was talking about a process. You know, there's no instant healing. You know, it's a process, you know? And I figured out the process. And the same process has, you know, kept me grounded and put within me this attitude of gratitude that keep bringing goodness to me, you know? And every day it's get better and better, you know?
Do you
So
wish...
there's a story to tell more than just, huh?
I was going to ask you, Glynn, whether do you feel very sad that your mother was not still alive to see you come out of prison? And
That's the thing when I'm riding down the highway, like doing this interview with you, you know? That's the thing that make me pause when my mom, the one who put all effort in to see me free, you know, not here to enjoy it. But I know that she is, you know, I believe that, you know, it's all right, you know, it's all right. She would be happy. You know, I'm just trying to stay happy. That's what it is.
You have a son, Glenn, and you have 3 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren.
No, I got, yeah, that's right. That's right.
How easy has it been to get back into family life for you?
Oh, I've always been about family. Incarcerated, I had sons, you know, a bunch of sons that I, you know, kind of took under my wing and mentored. And I think it was because of a longing to, you know, raise my son that I, you know, took on that. But yeah, I'm good with family. Family is, they all that, you know. And it's the thrill of my life to be with my great-grandkids, you know, because I've always been about generational stuff, you know.
You're suing the police.
7 beautiful great-grandkids.
Yeah, it must be wonderful for you, Glenn. You're suing the police for compensation, understandably, and you want hundreds of millions of dollars, but not for you to go and spend on fancy things. You've made it clear what you want to do is to spend it to help people who come out of prison to start new lives, which is an extraordinarily laudable thing for you to be doing.
Well, I sit in this prison for years and years, watching people, you know, come and go. And I'm not just talking about career criminals. I had some friends who had college degrees and was real good guys, real intentions. They got out and come back, sometimes, you know, 2 or 3 times. So I you know, I couldn't figure that out. I couldn't get out. You know, I couldn't get out. I was trying, but these guys would get out and come back. It just baffled me. So it inspired me to do an in-depth study on recidivism, the cause, the effect, how to curtail it, you know. And I come to understand that this too is deliberate. You know, if you got figures like 70% recidivism, if 100 guys get out today, within 6 to 18 months, 70 of them will be back. And this figure stays steady for years and years. So I'm like, somebody got their hand on the scale, you know, for these numbers to stay this steady, this long, you know. And so I started figuring out, okay, what's needed was a wraparound support system within the first 6 to 18 months that you're out, you know. And so I figured out how to do that, you know, and that's what I dedicated myself to coming out. I don't have the platform to help in the front end to stop it from going in, you know, but on coming out, that really matters, you know, how to make the adjustment, you know.
And Glynn, you
The
had
guy
a
go in and get degrees.
you had a GoFundMe page which has raised $350,000, and that's been helping you obviously enormously. But I guess money is one thing and can obviously be very helpful to you. But liberty is another thing altogether. To have had your liberty taken away for nearly 50 years for something you didn't do. You know, I remember famously, obviously, Nelson Mandela coming out after nearly 3 decades and showing the same kind of remarkable eloquence and poise that you're showing. But inside, what do you feel? I mean, do you feel a raging anger about what happened to you, the loss of your freedom for all those years? Or how would you categorize your emotions inside?
I mean, put it to you like this. I got a whole lot of bitterness, a whole lot of anger, hatred, but it's all energy. I learned a long time ago how to channel that energy. You know, if I let it do what it do, then I'm a dead man, you know, inside and out, you know, with that kind of bitterness and rage and hatred. But I learned how to channel that energy into a positive, you know, to turn it into something. It's energy. Energy is energy. It's how you know, how you got it, how you focus it. So yeah, don't think for a minute that I don't have anger and bitterness and stuff. It's just only logical that I do with all them defeats for somebody to do, you know? It messes with me spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. That's what I say. I got mental health issues that haven't been given a name. You know, but what my awareness of it, you know, that's what keep me sane and keep me from, you know, going raving mad. Yeah, I'm pissed. I'm still pissed, but this pissed, you know, it's energy. You know, I'm pissed off enough to make something right. You know, I'm just pissed off not just to scream about it. You know, and I've always been, well, if you got a problem, let's solve it. You know, don't come to me with the problem if you ain't got an inkling of a solution. You're just venting, you know.
And Glynn, when you came out, the world must have changed so dramatically on the outside. What was the best and worst thing about the world that you found 50 years later?
I haven't found nothing bad yet. It gets better for me every day. You know, like I say, I'm steeped in this attitude of gratitude, you know. I haven't found nothing bad yet, you know. But I know there's 4 seasons in every year and there's going to be a bad season coming. But I'm built for this, you know, the good and the bad, you know.
Was there one book, Glynn, that when you learned to read and you read books and things, was there one book that you read in prison which really helped you?
In particular?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. There wasn't no one book in particular. I read everything from Atlas Shrugged to Moby Dick to Iliad, you know, Homer. No, it wasn't no one particular book that I could even, I don't know.
What do you want to achieve now? Glynn, now you've got your freedom. What do you most want to achieve now with the rest of your life?
Yeah, if this is my last days, I'm gonna make it my best days, you know. I'm gonna enjoy this. But what I wanna do, everybody wanna live forever. And the way you do that is you establish something. So I'm all about some generational wealth. I didn't pay the price enough for me, my son, my great-grandkids, you know, where they shouldn't have to pay this. I want some legislation passed, you know, where you won't have to, an innocent man don't have to do this, you know, make some, we got to rethink how we do this, you know. If I could make some, that would be my legacy, some changes in criminal justice reform, you know.
Yeah. Glynn Simmons.
And it could be done.
Yeah. It's an amazing journey you've been on, an incredible story. It made me feel enraged reading it. And to see you now and to see you enjoying your freedom so much, but also being so eloquent about it, being so thoughtful, really, about what you've been through. I don't know if I could have had your your calmness, the way you talk about this. But it's incredibly impressive. And I want to wish you all the very best for your life and hope that you enjoy it as much as I'm sure you will, and that you do get the legacy that you're after, which is to try and stop other people ever being put in your position.
You know, thank you, Piers Morgan. I want to say you've been one of my favorite commentators, even when you was on CNN. I never thought I'd be having an interview with the famous Piers Morgan. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that.
Well, you know that the honor is all mine, genuinely. You know, you are a piece of American history. You're the longest serving imprisoned inmate to be exonerated and declared an innocent man in the history of your country. And that makes you a remarkable part of American history, a remarkably shameful part of American history. But you, sir, are a gentleman, and it's been an honor, honestly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. God bless you.
And you. All the best, Glynn. Enjoy your freedom.
Okay, thanks, Piers.